Good morning. This is Elizabeth West. I'm the editorial director of the BTN Group, and we are so excited to be at the Business Travel Show Europe this morning. Today, I have joining me Clive Wratten, CEO of the Business Travel Association. It is a membership association for mainly TMCs and
Right.
any other organizations. Clive.
Yeah, well, we're kind of really trying to get the whole business travel ecosystem as part of the associations. We have airlines, technology companies, finance, hotels, train, car, the whole kind of range of stuff that are involved in the Business Travel Association these days.
Fantastic. So you're bringing in a lot of different perspectives to your meetings and making sure that the ecosystem is all involved. And I think that is a really important conversation to keep very active, especially in these times.
Yeah, I mean, it is a complicated business. There's so many parts of it, and it's my passion and belief that we have to have all of the parts of that working together to not only recover but to make the industry sustainable and better for everybody and keep improving for the end customer. So.
Very good. Well, I know that one of the things that you've been speaking about lately is to address the perception of travel disruption and the amount of quote unquote chaos that's happening in airports, with the airlines, at the travel management level. Tell me a little bit about your opinion of how that is being communicated and the results when things are communicated in that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, first up, it's more than perception; it is reality. But the issues that we're experiencing, not just here in the UK, we have to make it very clear,
Absolutely.
around the globe, are a consequence of the last 2 years. And the positive thing, as I keep saying, is if you'd asked me back at the end of last year, there was a real doubt whether people come back travelling. The one thing this has proven is people are desperate to travel for whatever reason. So that is good. But I think we do need to understand the reality of what's going on as we open up. And there are over 95% of flights out of the UK are getting away with minimal delay. And I'm not suggesting for a moment that people are caught up in some of the delays is not horrific and regrettable. Clearly it is. But it's just to point out that there is a lot of stuff going on out there that is working pretty well in considering what we've come out of. So our role is to really make sure that the press, from whatever side, gives both sides of the story, and of course in the mainstream media, the stories about delays are the ones that get public interest, and it's quite hard to move it across, and that's where our role is coming. It's just to not, as I say, take away from the fact of the very difficult circumstances people have faced, but just to put the other side of the perspective around what the real situation is about. And I think for business travellers it's really important, because any sign of stress or difficulty is going to remove what is quite fragile confidence anyway. And it's really important that we stress that particularly the long haul flights out of the UK have been least affected up until now. It's not to say again they haven't been, but they've been least affected, and the high density business routes continue to operate. And I think we saw some of the airlines cancelling early, allowing our members to be able to rebook, and generally on multi-rotational routes. So it's just booking on the next flight or the one before, as the case may be, so it can be managed. Where we have, as an industry, let ourselves down, if I'm being brutally honest, is where people have been at the airport, even on board the aircraft, and planes have been cancelled. So all of that leads to, is it about resourcing? Well, yes, it is, and again, it's no different to any other sector. And talking to government bays and the departments around that, is they're generally looking at the whole UK employment issue around how to get people back to work in the numbers that we need. So we're not any different. It's just it hits the front pages much more because it's about generally people's holidays, and that's quite an emotional subject.
It is. Travel is an emotional subject. And speaking of the leisure travel side, I do think that summer obviously is a very intensive travel time, especially in the UK and this part of Europe. So do you think that these types of disruptions and more of the upheaval at the airport will alleviate as the summer sort of winds down? I mean, we have a whole summer in front of us.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's not going to be a easy summer all the way through, but I think what is important as an industry, whichever part you sit in it, is show we're doing something to make it better. You can't change a problem, but you can change the future from being a problem again. And I think the industry, we said right at the beginning here, needs to work really closely in collaboration to make sure that the impact is minimised through the summer. We need to be open and honest and upfront and as early as we can in telling people that there may be disruption and where the pinch points may be. And I think it will ease as we move through this period. of course, we've seen on both sides, leisure and business travel, a real spike to get back. I think honestly that will plateau a bit once we get through and people have travelled, and we have the cost of living crisis that's coming around. So the two things coming together, with the industry working so hard, and I know they are because I'm involved in it, to get it right. We don't want to upset all of these passengers, not when we're desperate to get them back. That it will get better through the summer, but it's still going to be a few months where there are going to be stories, I'm afraid, of people getting delayed and baggage being lost.
Well, for what it's worth, I flew in from New York and I had no problems at the airport. I got right through, no queues. So I know that for some it is really working well, and I'm sure it's not luck of the draw. People are working so hard to make that happen. So I was very happy to have that experience, given the stories that we've been hearing. So let's talk about managing through this a little bit, and the relationship between the corporates and their travel management companies, because this is a time when maybe quite important. There will be disruptions, rebookings are happening, and I know that resources at TMCs have been at a little bit lower level as well. Is that changing now?
They certainly have been. As you know, we were very vocal through the pandemic that 50% of the business travel management workforce is made redundant throughout it. We had to act quickly. Talking to our members in recent weeks is that many of them are getting back towards the level they feel is representative of the turnover. They are still recruiting, and it's not just travel consultants, it's in areas such as IT and finance where their transferable skills are sometimes harder to bring back. So there is still an ongoing recruitment need, and as I say, I think the industry doesn't have so much of a recruitment problem, it has an image problem of getting people back into the industry, and we're working hard to change that. So I think, and I've heard, and I speak to travel managers, and I know there's some frustrations around some of the service levels, and again, we accept that is happening, but we are back at that level. It's important to say, though, that some of the rationale, and I'm not excusing it, but it's important to get the facts out there, that pre-pandemic, 1 in 10 bookings was touched or changed post it being made. It's now 1 in 4. And that's then not taking into account the additional phone calls of nervous and understandably nervous travellers ringing saying, do I need a test? What's happening about my flight? So there is a lot more activity going on around every single booking, which means, as I said earlier, with a number of people versus the revenue is about there, but now given the service standards, it needs more people than they probably had pre-pandemic if they were to service it, and that's what we're working towards. So I think there are some mitigating factors as to why those delays are there, really around the complexity and the nervousness and confidence of travellers coming back.
Right, and it's really interesting that you say that, and the sort of maybe reticence to really rely on that online booking tool because the details are not necessarily there, and the hand holding or the traveler support, you're not getting that through an OBT. I did actually speak with a buyer yesterday who said, you know what, we've turned off our online booking tool and we're only using our travel counselors at the TMC, and that's the type of high level of complexity that we're dealing with, and I think we need to start to understand in terms of the resources that are needed now. Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of the paradox of the situation. Is it's a real opportunity to show the value of a TMC at a human being and their knowledge, but the counter side of that is it takes longer and you get the issues. But it's an opportunity and a threat for TMCs at this point. I understand that.
Yeah, it's a really interesting paradox right now. And so as you kind of look to the end of summer and we get to that really active business travel season in the fall, what is your advice to the travel buyers, the program managers, the TMCs? How do they collaborate to work together and get through this? I know that we've talked about management contracts in the past. We've talked about different ways to sort of configure your relationship. Is that something that we need to start looking at even more?
I think it's an absolute must. The danger is that we carry on doing what we've always done and you get the same result. And as you know, we as the association put out a white paper around the commercial models of the travel management industry. I can't actually remember when it was, but I think it was last year, because we feel that it's important this debate was put at the front line and change. And I'm worried that it was greeted with a lot of discussion, which was positive and input, but I worry that we just carry on, as I said, doing what we do. I think I saw a travel buyer recently say that I had a management fee, so I think I'm in a less difficult situation than those with a transaction fee, and I think that is absolutely the truth. we've said it for a while, and I wouldn't I, of course, but travel management or business travel is an investment, not a cost as you grow. And I think the last 2 years have proven that. The service that a travel management company provides for you is an investment, it's a partnership. We very much as the BTA see our industry as a professional services industry that is working alongside corporates of all sizes to achieve their goals and their values around the globe or locally, and therefore the investment you make in that will result in how closely you work together. So does that mean more cost? Potentially, but equally it can just be about solid relationships and understanding where each other are coming from, and being frank and open. And I think we've learned that through the last 2 years. Those that have really stayed in the relationship and valued each other, and it's both ways, are the ones that are probably coming out stronger. And I think we can all learn from that and invest in it from here on in.
Very good. Thank you so much for joining me today, Clive. And thank you for joining BTN TV at the Business Travel Show.